I should have moved out the moment I saw the note. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. Not the scratching, not the voices, not what I eventually found inside the walls. The note. Because if I had left that day, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't know what lives between walls, and it wouldn't know my name. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap. That's it. No tragic backstory. No inheritance. No mysterious family connection. I was 26, broke, and desperate. The building sat on the edge of small town. 4 floors, built sometime in the 1960s. Old but livable. The landlord seemed friendly. The rent was unbelievably low. Looking back, that should have been the first warning. But people ignore warnings when they're struggling. I certainly did. The apartment itself looked normal. Small kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom. Nothing unusual. Nothing creepy. Nothing haunted. For the first 3 days, everything was fine. Then I found the note. It was taped to the inside of a kitchen cabinet. Folded, yellowed with age, handwritten. I almost threw it away. Then I read it. The note contained only 4 sentences. Welcome to Unit 304. Please ignore scratching sounds from inside the walls. Please ignore whispering from inside the walls. Please ignore other noises from inside the walls. At first I laughed. Some former tenant trying to be funny. A joke. A prank. Nothing more. Then that night, I heard scratching. Very faint. Inside my bedroom wall. I froze. The sound lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then stopped. I assumed it was mice. Old buildings get mice. That's normal. The next night, it happened again. Longer this time. A slow scratching noise moving through the wall behind my bed. Not random. Not animal-like. Deliberate. Almost careful. Like someone dragging fingernails along wood. I still wasn't worried. Not yet. I bought traps. Called maintenance. Moved on. Then I met Mrs. Holloway, the tenant across the hall. 70 years old. Lived there forever. She was the one who changed everything. We were talking in the hallway when I casually mentioned the scratching. The moment I did, she became quiet. Uncomfortably quiet. Then she asked a strange question. Did you read the note? My stomach tightened. Yeah. She nodded slowly. Then whispered. Good. That was it. No explanation. No clarification. Just good. And she walked back into her apartment and locked the door. I remember standing there wondering what the hell that meant. That night, the scratching returned. Only now it wasn't in one wall. It was in all of them. Bedroom, living room, bathroom, kitchen, every wall. Different locations. Different rhythms. Almost like multiple things moving simultaneously. I lay awake listening, trying to convince myself it was plumbing. Old pipes. Animals. Anything. Then I heard the whispering. At first it sounded like airflow. The kind of noise old vents make. Then I realized it contained words. Soft. Muffled. Barely audible. Someone speaking inside the walls. I sat upright immediately. The whispering stopped. Silence filled the apartment. Then something tapped the wall beside my bed. 3 slow taps. Tap. 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 I didn't sleep at all after that. The next morning, I called the landlord. He didn't seem surprised. In fact, he sounded bored. I explained the noises, the scratching, the whispers, the tapping. His response made my skin crawl. Just ignore them. The exact same wording as the note. Ignore them. I asked what was causing the sounds. There was a long pause. Then he answered. People who investigate don't stay very long. The line disconnected. That should have been enough. I should have moved out. Instead, I became curious. Curiosity ruins people, especially people like me. That evening, I started examining the apartment, looking for hidden spaces, maintenance access, anything. Eventually, I noticed something strange in the bedroom closet. The dimensions didn't make sense. The wall appeared too thick, much thicker than it should have been. I measured it twice, then 3 times. The number stayed the same. There should have been empty space behind that wall. A lot of empty space. But no doorway existed. No access panel. Nothing. Just solid drywall. At least it looked solid. That night, around 2 a.m., I heard movement inside it. Not scratching. Footsteps. Slow footsteps. Walking through the hidden space. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped directly behind the wall. Then someone whispered. Not through the wall. Inside the wall. Only inches away. He's listening. My blood turned to ice. Another voice answered. He always listens. Then silence. I grabbed my phone and recorded everything. Or at least I thought I did. The next morning, I reviewed the recording. Nothing. No voices. No footsteps. Only static. Several minutes of static. Yet something strange appeared at the end. A voice. Very faint. Only one sentence. A sentence I never heard that night. The voice whispered, "He hasn't noticed the extra room yet." I moved out of the bedroom immediately. Started sleeping in the living room. It didn't help. The noises followed. Sometimes the scratching moved beneath the floor. Sometimes above the ceiling. Sometimes directly behind whatever wall I happened to be nearest. Like it knew where I was. Like it was following me. 3 days later, another tenant vanished. Unit 308. A college student named Emily. Police searched the building. Found nothing. No signs of struggle. No evidence. Nothing. The landlord seemed irritated more than concerned. That bothered me. But what bothered me even more was what happened afterward. The building directory changed. Emily's name vanished. Her apartment number vanished. Even maintenance records changed. It was as though she never existed. When I asked Mrs. Holloway about her, she stared at me, confused, then said, "Nobody lives in 308. I felt cold immediately, because I'd spoken to Emily 2 days earlier. I knew she existed, yet somehow reality seemed to disagree. That night, the whispering became louder. For the first time, I could understand entire conversations. Dozens of voices, maybe hundreds, all speaking inside the walls. Most sounded frightened. Some sounded confused. A few sounded angry. One voice kept repeating the same sentence, over and over. "We shouldn't have looked." I heard that sentence nearly 50 times. Then another voice answered. "He'll hear you." Silence followed. Then every voice whispered simultaneously. Too late. The wall behind my couch exploded with scratching. Not gentle scratching, violent scratching. Something clawing frantically from the other side, trying to get through. I ran, actually ran, out of the apartment, out of the building. Spent the rest of the night in my car. When I returned the next morning, something had changed. A new note sat on my kitchen table. I know it wasn't there before. I know because I checked. The handwriting matched the original note. Only this one contained a new message. You were supposed to ignore the other noises. Underneath that was another sentence. One sentence that completely shattered my sense of reality. "We can hear you through the walls too." And that was the moment I finally decided to find out what was hidden inside them. The decision felt stupid the moment I made it. Every instinct told me to leave. Pack my things. Drive away. Forget the apartment existed. Forget the notes. Forget the whispers. Forget the impossible conversations happening inside walls that should have contained nothing but insulation and pipes. But by then, leaving felt harder than staying. Because something had changed. The building wasn't just haunting me anymore. It was communicating. And communication means intention. Something wanted me to know certain things. Something wanted me to keep listening. The question was why. That afternoon, I bought a stud finder, a thermal camera, and a drywall saw. I told myself I was being rational. I told myself there had to be a hidden maintenance corridor, an abandoned utility shaft, some architectural explanation. I spent hours scanning the walls. Most appeared normal. Then I reached the closet. The wall behind the closet glowed differently. Not hot, not cold, just wrong. The thermal image couldn't decide what temperature it was looking at. Numbers fluctuated constantly. 30 degrees, 70, -5, 100. The reading changed every second, as if the space behind the wall wasn't staying consistent. That should have stopped me. Instead, I started cutting. The drywall crumbled easily, too easily, like it had already been opened before. Within minutes, I had a hole large enough to see through. I pointed my flashlight inside and immediately realized something impossible. The hidden space wasn't empty. It wasn't even small. The flashlight beam disappeared into darkness, far deeper than the building should have allowed. The apartment wall was 8 inches thick. The space beyond stretched for what looked like 20 feet, maybe more. I remember staring into that darkness for a long time, trying to understand what I was seeing, trying to understand how a 4-story apartment building could contain a room that wasn't physically possible. Then I noticed the footprints. Human footprints. Hundreds of them, covering the dust-covered floor inside the hidden space. Some large, some small, some barefoot, all leading deeper into the darkness. None leading back. My stomach turned. Then I saw something else. Words, written on the interior wall. Thousands of words. Messages, names, dates, warnings, scratched directly into the concrete. The nearest message read, "Don't follow the voices." Another, "They know what you remember." Another, "If you find a door, don't open it." I kept reading. Every warning sounded more desperate than the last. Then my flashlight landed on a familiar name. Emily, the missing tenant. Below her name was a message, written in shaky letters. I can still hear the apartments. I backed away immediately, because Emily hadn't vanished months ago. Emily had written that message after disappearing, which meant she hadn't left the building. She was still inside it, somewhere. Then I heard movement, deep inside the hidden space. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming closer. I slammed a piece of furniture over the hole, locked the closet, and spent the rest of the day pretending I hadn't seen any of it. That night, the building changed. The whispers stopped. The scratching stopped. The tapping stopped. Silence filled every room. For the first time since moving in, there was no noise. No activity. Nothing. The silence terrified me more than anything, because it felt intentional, like the building was waiting. At exactly 3:03 a.m., someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 knocks. Slow, evenly spaced. I checked the peephole. Nobody was there. Then another knock sounded. Not from the apartment door. From inside the closet. My blood froze. 3 more knocks. Inside the closet. 3 more. Inside the wall. Something was standing in that hidden space. Something knew I'd opened it. The knocking continued for nearly an hour. Never louder. Never faster. Just patient. Persistent. Waiting. The next morning, I found another note. This one was taped to the bathroom mirror. "Welcome to the inner side." The message beneath it made me physically sick. "They know you found the room." I didn't go to work. Didn't eat. Didn't sleep. I spent the entire day researching the building. Property records. Construction permits. Historical documents. Anything. The deeper I dug, the stranger things became. The official blueprints didn't match reality. Entire hallways were missing. Rooms existed on paper that didn't exist physically. Apartments had been renumbered dozens of times. Certain units vanished from records entirely. Most disturbing of all, the building's dimensions changed repeatedly across different documents. According to one blueprint, the structure was 40 feet wide. According to another, 60. According to a third, nearly 90. The same building, different sizes, different layouts, different histories, as if nobody could agree on what actually existed inside it. Then I discovered the disappearances. Not 1 or 2, hundreds, going back nearly 70 years. Tenants, maintenance workers, landlords, inspectors, police officers. People entered the building and were never seen again. Most cases were buried, forgotten, lost. The few surviving reports all contained similar details. Whispering, hidden rooms, voices inside walls. One report contained a sentence that immediately stood out. "The walls are larger on the inside." I wish I were making that up. I really do. That night, I made another mistake. I went back into the hidden space. Part of me knew I shouldn't. Part of me knew every warning existed for a reason. But curiosity had already won. I removed the barricade, climbed through the opening, and stepped into the impossible corridor. The air felt different immediately. Not colder, not warmer. Wrong. The darkness seemed heavier somehow. The flashlight barely penetrated it. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions. Concrete walls, concrete floor, no visible end, no visible purpose. Just an impossible hallway hidden inside a building too small to contain it. The deeper I walked, the more messages appeared. Thousands of them, covering every surface. Some written decades apart, some fresh. One message had been written recently, very recently. The dust around it remained disturbed. The message read, "He is walking here now." Underneath it, "Don't let him see you." I stopped moving. A terrible realization settled over me. The message wasn't old. The message was about me. Then I heard breathing. Not behind me. Ahead of me. Someone else occupied the corridor. Someone standing somewhere beyond the reach of my flashlight. Breathing. Waiting. Watching. And then a voice spoke. Not a whisper. Not from inside the walls. Directly ahead. A young woman's voice. Weak. Exhausted. Terrified. The voice said, "Please tell me what year it is." And I immediately recognized who it belonged to. Emily, the tenant who had disappeared 6 months earlier. Only she sounded like she'd been trapped there for decades. And before I could answer, something much larger moved in the darkness behind her. For a second, I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I just stood there staring into the darkness. Listening. Emily's breathing trembled somewhere ahead. And behind her, something enormous shifted. The sound wasn't footsteps. It wasn't crawling. It wasn't anything I could identify. Imagine hearing an entire room move. An entire structure bending. Wood creaking. Concrete grinding. Metal twisting. Like a building changing position. That's what it sounded like. Then Emily spoke again. Much quieter. Much more afraid. "Don't shine the light." My grip tightened around the flashlight. "What? Don't." The massive movement stopped. Complete silence followed. Then another voice answered from deeper in the darkness.